Welcome to the final episode of Series 39, everyone. This episode came in at a much more reasonable length, and we are so glad that you are here with us. Before we get to the episode and risk making it even longer, we'll just get right to some announcements. If you liked what you've heard this series, please go check out Chimera, currently available on itch.io. If you like the world building and character creation of games like Descent into Midnight, you'll probably really enjoy Chimera as well. So head on over to play.chimera.games and pick up your very own copy. All proceeds will go right back into the game for things like art, sensitivity consultations, layout artists, etc. And for every $15 that the project earns, including tips, another community copy will be added to the pile. This lets somebody else grab a copy if they are unable to afford it at this time, or if they just want to check it out before committing. Again, that's at play.chimera.games, which will take you directly to the itch.io page. We don't have anything else to announce for today, so we will see you right back here after the show for the call to action. Then stick around for the outtakes at the very end. But until then, enjoy the show.
Discussion episode. Last time we created our characters for Chimera, and this episode we're going to be discussing the character creation process. And we're super thrilled to welcome back Amr Ammourazz and Ryan Boelter, the designers of the game, with me, Senda, as your guest co-host. Probably the voice you were surprised to hear when you turned on this podcast.
Hopefully they listened to the first two episodes.
Hopefully you heard the first two. Right. We're like, who's that introducing the show? So really quickly, before we jump into the actual discussion part, Amr and Ryan, we're going to have you reintroduce yourselves again for everyone at home and tell us a little bit about the characters you made in our last episode, as well as a bit about the world that we created together. So, Amr, why don't we start with you?
Hi. The voice you're currently hearing is also not the voice you're expecting. I'm Amr Ammourazz. I am one of the co-designers of this game, along with the voice you do expect. You can find me doing game design, streaming, podcasting all over the internet at Ammourazz pretty much everywhere. That's me. That's the short version.
The short version. Cool. Hey,
Who did you make?
Oh, yeah. We forgot about the
What
characters.
did I make? I don't know. I did some...
Who knows what we
Hold
did?
on. Chimera?
I guess
Chimera.
this is a show about characters?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. I made a character. Okay. Their name was Nisf Torpedo, and she is the weapon and innovator.
Not in that order.
Not in that order. What order is it? But who has time for the rules?
I know, right?
Certainly not one of the people that wrote the game.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely not that.
Ryan, why don't you tell us about your character and also introduce yourself, I guess, for our guests or our listeners who may not know who you are.
Yeah,
So.
I am Ryan Boelter. You can find me online at Lord Neptune, pretty much everywhere. Let's see. I am working on Chimera. I do podcasting. I do editing for podcasting. I'm writing an audio drama about superheroes and the most important non-powered person in their life, called Side Heroes, told from the perspective of that non-powered individual.
And believe it or not, dear listeners, he also has a family somewhere in there.
I do.
Somewhere.
And I love them very much. Let's see. I made last episode, Ox is technically a person from a different world in the solar system that became a ghost on this world somehow, and it took a long time to find their way into existence. as something that anybody else can see. So they're an actual ghost. They're the Spirit and the Stranded playbooks. And I love them very much.
Good. I'm glad.
Excellent. Senda, would you like to tell us about your character?
I would love to tell you about my character,
I love your
Amelia.
character.
I love your character. I have such a crush on you.
Your character loves my character.
I do.
My character loves your character.
I know. It's very good. Good. With all of that out of the way, so my character is Lindsay Shannon, also known as Els. And she is the Mask and the Hopeful. Are my two playbooks that I blended together. And she also goes by the Wheat Waif. Our world, if you remember from our last couple of episodes, is the shape of a D12. So she came from the farming pent, and a lot of her past and history just has to do with basically constantly working with plants. And that's kind of where her family's background is. And she throws little sheaves of wheat, which is delightful. Yes, and she has a big old crush on her brilliance.
That's my
Amelia,
character.
why don't you tell us about Danielle Michelle?
Yes, my character is Danielle Michelle, aka Her Brilliance. I have the Demigod and Leader playbooks. So she is the child of the deity of life and death. Her thing is like, she's going to go among the humans and she's going to figure out this life and death thing and be like the best god of life and death ever. Because obviously her parent doesn't understand it because they've never experienced life or death. And she's just like, what are my traits? I have really high stats in logical and energetic. And I'm just really like, I love being in charge, and I don't understand why anybody wouldn't love me because I'm amazing.
I mean, I do.
Right. And also like, oh, the mask though, right? They're like, it's pretty cute.
Oh, man.
But like Lindsay, not really into that. Not into Lindsay. I specifically put that in my notes.
Totally into Mask, not into Lindsay.
Yeah. I put that just to answer the question. Who is your blind spot? I put the Mask, not Lindsay. But obviously my existence does imply that there are deities as part of our world. And we've established some things about my role model, the god of gravity, being extremely important. So there's a lot happening here.
There's just so much.
Yeah.
Where to go? Go listen to the previous episodes.
It's so good.
I think
the
one other thing we should say, if we feel like we need to get it in, is the bad guys are the spherists who are trying to make our D12 world into a circle. I mean, a sphere.
The conspiracy spherists.
Conspiracy spheres.
I want a t-shirt that says that I'm a conspiracy spherist.
I would buy that t-shirt. That sounds very fun.
It's just like a picture of like the globe, like the earth of like round.
Conspiracy spheres.
Or like a crossed out D12. Conspiracy spherist.
Delightful.
This is really fun to say. Okay, let's go ahead and dive into the actual real part of our show. D20 for your thoughts.
D20 for your thoughts.
This is the segment where we talk to our guests about their thoughts on character creation and how it works in this game and their design process, just all kinds of questions. This is the meat of the discussion, really. All the stuff before doesn't count. No, this is like the interview portion of our kind of interview show. So our first question for both of you as designers, where do you feel like your best ideas come from and how do they present themselves to you?
Do you want to go first, Amr?
Sure. My best ideas come from staring into the unending abyss and waiting for game design to strike me. In other words, doing math.
Oh, we're still waiting for the calculations about
that
gravity.
explains why I'm not a game designer.
My best ideas come from like one of three places. One, it's I do a math thing or I check out a mechanic and I'm just like, oh, this is neat. Can I do something with this? And then like I try to take something from there. And then there's the exact opposite, which is I look at a thing, I'm like, that was fun. I want to tell a story like that. And then I work backwards from there. But more than anything else, I think like the best ideas come from it in conversation with other people, whether it be other designers or Ryan for this project, or just generally looking at other games and being like, oh, huh. Like the idea of signature moves all having plus questions came from looking at Pasión de las Pasiones and being like, I wonder if we could implement this into our monstrosity of a game.
Mm-hmm. And it works very nicely.
It does.
Mm-hmm. For myself, things that people say inspire me. Like random things. Like I was talking about how Senda, you were talking about something on one of your Pandas Talking Games episodes that's literally sparked the idea for this entire game that we covered this series. And like just other random things like, oh yeah, somebody's talking about this tension mechanic. And I'm like, what other games have tension in it? And I wonder if I can like take Pandemic, the board game, and turn that into an RPG or something like that. You know, it's just random stuff that I pick out of different conversations with people that kind of that spark that creativity a bit, which is really interesting. And a lot of podcasts do that for me. So that's why, I mean, it's not why I listen to a bunch of podcasts, but I listen to a bunch of podcasts because it's enjoyable, but also it does spark that creative flow at times.
Hooray for podcasts.
Yeah.
Seriously.
I mean, not that anyone here would disagree with that, right?
No, I think they're okay.
They're fine, I guess.
As we previously established, they're awesome if you don't have to edit them.
Yes, like that.
Just bring it back around.
Gotta hit it in every episode. Yeah. So what do you, as designers, look for in a system as far as the actual character creation process? Or what specific pieces do you think need to be there for great characters to happen, to be the result of that process?
I think for me, I'm curious to hear Ryan's result as a person who's nominally a host of the show.
Yeah.
But for me, characters don't exist in a vacuum. The way I tend to create characters, and you might have noticed across the course of this episode, is I wait a little to hear what others have, and then I fit my character into that slot. And my character, I don't tend to, even with like systems like PbtA that have relationships, I don't really tend to see my character as complete until the first couple of sessions have happened and I've seen the dynamics in play and I've seen where they slot in. A good character creation system for me could be as crunchy or as lightweight as possible, as long as it provides context for the characters, whether that be context in the greater world, context within the story, or context within the group.
I'm the same way. Like, I think I need to, like, kind of get a feel for it to, like, kind of, like, play it out a little bit. But it's definitely always more fun for me to do it with other people and play off of other people.
Like, I can have a full personality after character creation on my own, and I often do. But I don't have a full character until I've seen the dynamic.
And I don't feel as connected to it. Like, I can make a character and everything, but it doesn't feel like mine, really, until I've been digging in it a little bit.
So I have two answers that are kind of polar opposites of one another. One, the collaborative character creation is something that I am absolutely enjoying. If a game has like session 0 as a group built into character creation, like most PbtA games do, I'm a huge fan of that, because that tells me that the game itself is going to have a lot of collaborative storytelling, and there's going to be a decent amount of agency. If there's world building built into that as well, that's just an instant in for me, because I mean, just look at Chimera, and it's my love letter to character creation, basically. The exact opposite of that, though, is can the system let me just unleash my min-max beast of a brain? Can I gamify the system to create the best and most efficient character possible, a la any Palladium game, Dungeons and Dragons to an extent, things like that just tickle a different portion of my brain that says, you know, this character is going to do combat so well, or they're going to be able to craft things so well, or what have you. For whatever reason, I love min-maxing. And that probably goes back to my time playing RPGs on the Super Nintendo and Genesis and constantly re-rolling my stats until I got perfect everything for like 3 hours straight.
Aww.
For every character.
No.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I
It's
never
fine.
did that. Like,
It's
I don't think
perfectly
I've ever
healthy.
had like a min-maxed, like, I don't know. I tried one time to like make a like good like min-max character in my first D&D game because I knew that those were the people that I was playing with, and like, and I was just like, this is so boring.
I mean,
I don't know if I enjoyed playing that.
Right, and like that's the thing is that like you like the puzzle part of it of like
I do.
finding the way to make all of those pieces fit together. And of course, like in that case, it was not a game that I knew well enough to do that, to like make that happen or anything like that. And for me, I'm just like, how can I make this person's life suck? And like, you know, like make this a mess.
Yeah.
my theory of character creation definitely used to be min-maxing and definitely has morphed into how much of a disaster can they possibly be. My priorities shifted. But I definitely used to run, you know, 3rd edition rogues with 18 decks that were all elves, so it was really a 20, right? Like, I mean, across the board, +5s, level 1, like, just go. Right? Like,
and there's something to be said for like being really good at your thing. You know what I mean? Like there's something really fun about like being at a table and like being like, I'm gonna roll my really good stat. I'm gonna, you know, like
this is the thing
I'm gonna win.
I succeed at. This is
right.
I mean, we could get into a whole conversation about like niche protection and that kind of thing, which is very D&D conversation, which I now have some interesting thoughts about in context of Chimera potentially, but maybe instead we should jump on.
Move on to a different question.
Yeah.
Right. So how do we think that character creation in this game stacks up against other games that we've played? In particular, I want to talk about how it stacks up against other PbtA games, because I think that as a show, for sure, we've kind of covered how PbtA games stack up against, you know, each other or games in general. But really, like, this compared to a PbtA game.
Or like calling our game not a PbtA game.
Let's say like a
it's sort of a modified, isn't it?
Right,
It's kind of a
I'm
next
trying to think
gen,
of, like,
right? Because the core of PbtA is kind of still there, but the dice have shifted. So
right, you don't have D6. You have 2 playbooks. You have like discuss.
And I think on that note, like, I think one of the things I'm most critical about the current state of our game, and that Ryan and I have been trying different things to deal with, is that the character creation can be a lot, right? There's a lot of moving components. We've talked about, like, how in its current form, doing the full character creation at a con means that you're very unlikely to play the game at a con or get a lot of gameplay. And so we created, like, a quick start rule guide for how to do streamlined world building and character creation. But there's still a lot of components, and we want to make sure that information is as accessible as possible and as easily digestible, because you're learning, you know, new dice, you're learning 2 playbooks, you're learning a bunch of moves. But on the other hand, I think that it draws on the things that people find the most empowering in PbtA character generation, in that it does provide a good basis for your character, both in appearance and personality and capability. When you're done with character creation, you don't need to go with let me rephrase. You can play certain games, especially non-PbtA games, and create a character who ends up and you have a bundle of stats and numbers, but not necessarily a character. PbtA character creation tends to lead you towards having a character by the end of character creation, even if you don't have a concept. And I think Chimera does that well. I think it builds you up into having character concepts by the time you get into character creation with the world building and the built-in session 0 portion.
Well, I think the thing that makes character creation go long in Chimera is that it's blended in with world building. We were doing world building before we created our characters. We were doing world building while we created our characters, and we were probably doing world building after we created our characters as well. I mean, it's almost impossible to separate the world building from the character creation in Chimera, which I think is a positive thing, because when you are building a world together as a group, everybody cares about that world so much more than a prefab setting module of sorts, right?
It does make it a uniquely difficult thing to solve for conventions because, and it's really interesting, right? Frequently at conventions, the things that we cut to make a one-shot work are the session 0 and are the world building, right? And having it blended in, I can see why that's difficult.
The character creation too.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there are a lot of places like you get your pre-generated character sheet and, you know, like you can fill in some like little detail information. But I know when I run L5R at conventions, I hand people playbooks, basically, like circle these things about your character and then you can go. But yeah, that does. And, you know, like, Ryan and I are the kind of people that would totally show up to a convention game that was like, we only have time for character creation and world building. And we'd be like, great, here's my $20. Like, I'm for it. But obviously some people do like a game to actually
play. I mean, I think you'd be happier if you could play it after the coolness that we just made too. I'm just saying.
I mean, yeah, well, sure, maybe. I don't know if this is my whole podcast, so I don't know.
I think people familiar with games like Descent into Midnight, and I don't went over in my brain and I forgot. There was another PbtA game. What was it? I don't remember. Games like Descent into Midnight, where the world is built up through character creation, you will feel similarities there, while also feeling, you know, more traditional PbtA similarities where you're also building up the group dynamics through the character creation. Right.
Yeah.
I know I've had a lot of successes at cons with 4-hour blocks where the first 2 hours are character creation and world building. We don't, I don't allow the group to like go and pull as many threads during those sessions, because when I did release the reins, the thing happens like at the end of Gen Con in 2019 where me, Rich Howard, and a few other amazing individuals did character creation world building for 5 hours straight. And then had no time to play a game. So, you know, honing in and saying we've got 2 hours for character creation and world building, 2 hours for actually playing the game. It gives you a nice little taste of the story, but I have ideas for pre-gens and Chimera that might be pretty interesting to see implemented. So that might be coming in a future version.
I think it'd be interesting to do, you know, for a convention game or something. I wonder if you can like reduce the number of questions or, you know, like that are choices for people to pick or like something like that, just so that like, you know, we spent a lot of time on the back and forth on those questions and, you know, kind of chatting about those things too. And you still want like a really rich world and everything for people to play around in, but also like you don't need as many hooks because you're not playing a campaign.
Exactly.
You know, you don't have to have all of those choices in there. So it's like, it's one of those, we see that a lot when we talk to people about like the ups and downs of their games. Or like, well, I don't really like this part, but if you take that away, then like, it's not the same game. So, you know, it's such a balance.
And along those lines, I think another one of the strengths of Chimera's character creation, as opposed to most PbtA games, is the customizability of it, which starts from when you choose your genres, right? And you choose what you're including, and also any micro genres you might want to add. But it also goes on to how we've attempted to structure a lot of the abilities. Like we've been doing our best so that every playbook has a clear identity, but could also be bent in a variety of ways. Like the learn, for example, or let me choose an example from one of the playbooks we chose. Demigod. So the Demigod, for example, started off when Ryan first wrote it as very explicitly being the way Amelia played it, about someone who literally is a demigod and has a deity parent within the context of whatever deity functions as in the world. But we've made some modifications both to the descriptions and then to the domains that the demigod has control over. Not in the version that you saw here, actually. A version change we made like 2 days after. But
because of our discussion and creation here.
To allow someone to be a demigod in the way Superman is a demigod, in that Superman does not literally have gods as parents, but Superman is raised by mortals and is functionally godly in being Kryptonian, right? And we wanted to allow the abilities to be interpreted as either the domain of a god or, you know, whatever abilities you have that make you stand up above the rest. And we've tried to do that with as many playbooks as possible so that you can be flexible with them.
So as someone who runs short con games, I do have to just call back and appreciate that it means that you're constantly running this game in 2 hours, which I love because I run 2-hour games at cons all the time. Like operatively, you're just running a 2-hour game with a 2-hour character creation. Woo! I'm totally into short con games. But this is interesting because this, I think, Amr, you actually started to address this question just now in your answer. But how does the process of character creation reinforce the feel of Chimera and then set the expectations for play? And I think part of that is that you're spending that time blending those two characters, like you were talking about.
Yeah, I think just like the fact that your very playbooks are merged together, the fact that you are constantly referencing between two separate things that merge as perfectly as we can get them into one thing, reminds you that this game is not a game of just like one type of story, one genre, one world, but rather one where you are constantly mixing elements from across different things. Even in my case, where I chose 2 superhero playbooks, I'm still mixing 2 elements of superhero stories rather than just telling one standard trope.
Yeah, and it's not I've got this part, this genre over here, and I've got this part in this genre over here, and they could be separate entities. What we see a lot is people take the 2 genres completely at character creation and really just get them together and create this interesting blend that you probably never would have thought of.
It's the Reese's peanut butter cup of character creation.
It is the Reese's peanut butter cup of character creation.
You got your peanut butter on my chocolate.
You got your magical girls on my superhero.
Actually, a perfect example of that is
Superheroes and
what
my
Senda
magical
did with Els, and having the mask literally be the reason that Els got her hopeful powers.
Yeah. And mine, the Spirit playbook, was the reason I was a ghost from The Stranded. And it's just interesting how we see these things blend together so well when, you know, we just created the base playbooks and let people's creativity kind of flow from there, right?
I think that's one of the things, though, like when we were talking about like having a character versus like a character, like your character sheet full of stats versus like knowing who you are. And I think one of the things that I like about Chimera is that like in Masks, I can grab like the Doomed playbook and like, okay, like now I know what playbook I'm playing. Whereas in Chimera, like I've grabbed my 2 playbooks and I've already told you something about myself. Like I am a deity who likes to be a leader. Like we've already mashed those things together, like Senda is already like a hopeful, but also like weirdly unhelpful superhero. You know what I mean? Like the way we've combined those things is like you've already started saying something about your character above and beyond what just a playbook would say. Like you haven't even written anything down yet.
Yeah, exactly. And that continues through play, right? As you're going through these stories, you're constantly reminded that you're blending multiple genres together, that it's not always a magical girl story. It's not always a superhero story. It's a weird amalgamation of both that kind of keeps ebbing and flowing between the multiple genres that you have.
Well, even when we got to our team question, we were like, actually, not that one question. Let's mash them together.
Let's mash them together.
Like, can we have both? Both is good.
Can we have a world-ending nemesis? Or no?
All of the above.
I mean, we might as well, right?
But they're definitely a cult, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
it also helps that Magical Girls is technically like a subset of a superhero genre. Magical Girls are superheroes in their own right, but there's enough like different types of tropes that you only see really in Magical Girl genre compared to superhero genre. So that's why we can kind of see some similarities there, and you could take either of those prompts and go either way with them.
But you'd be able to do that with fantasy and Magical Girl too, or fantasy and superhero.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, and I think another nice thing about it too is the fact that like, I don't know anything about Magical Girls. I'm not like a particular like fan of that genre, but like there's enough other stuff happening with the superhero part that I'm like, okay, I can get into this. Like if you walked up to me and were like, here's a Magical Girl game, I'd be like, great. I guess I will play with you because I like games. But like this way, you know, it's like you can take your friend who likes superheroes and you can take your friend who likes Magical Girls and you can all play a game together.
Yeah,
and that's
absolutely.
really nice.
Yeah,
just
it's
bringing
wonderful.
people together with genres.
Just bringing people together.
That's what's really going on here.
It's about the friends you made along the way.
Yep.
Let's talk about character sheets.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that we've started kind of recently asking, and I think a thing that we always kind of talked about, but especially with this game, because I know when you sit down and play it for realsies, you get to like mash your papers together. And even with your spreadsheet that you sent us, like when it puts the two playbooks together for us. How hard were these to make? I mean, that's not really the question on our sheet is like, can you talk about your process? But like, how?
It's a feat of paper engineering, I think, is where we're going.
I'm going to leave Ryan to talk about the layout because I just kind of like take a mile leap back and run into another country and let them handle that. But yeah,
it's been fun. So it's always been two sheets. Like one was your primary, one was your secondary, and the alpha version was just a hot mess, and you probably can see some of that
as
on the
alpha
Chimera.
Versions are.
Yeah, it was horrible, but since then we figured out a way to take it so like when you print off these character sheets for in-person play or whatever, or if you just want to have a version, a physical copy of your character, it prints off in two sheets as well. The primary character sheet folds inwards on itself, so the moves are on the right-hand side and the character itself with all the abilities and all your advancement stuff is on the left-hand side. Folds inwards like a booklet, and then on the outside is kind of the cover page. And then the secondary sheet folds outwards so that the inside is for notes and on the outside is your stuff from your secondary sheet. Gets inserted into one another like a little booklet. And now your primary who you are is paired with the secondary who you are. You flip the page, there's all of your notes. You flip the page again, and there's all your moves. Your secondary is on the left and your primary is on the right because we can't defy the laws of physics when we fold paper. And it just works. And it's an interesting like experience when you're physically creating your playbook at a convention or at the table, because you normally don't do that. You normally have just a sheet of paper. It's just another level of, oh yeah, we're blending stuff together here. It's like a physical manifestation of the genre blending, which I just love. And online, we had to figure out how to do that too. And Google Sheets was the answer because, goodness, I can't even think about doing that with PDFs. Right?
Oh my gosh, no.
No. So we have all of the archetypes, primary and secondary, in their own separate tabs. And programmatically, you can select which ones you want, and it will populate the primary on the left-hand side and the secondary on the right-hand side and allow you to have those two together on a single tab. And it's really slick. It's easy. I've fixed it so that it doesn't hang up Google Chrome or anything anymore. So hopefully that's working for everybody now.
So do I get different questions if I pick the demigod as my secondary versus my primary?
You get one less backstory question.
Okay, but they're the same question. I was like, how many questions did you write?
Same questions.
Okay.
Yep, and same relationship questions between primary and secondary as well.
Yeah.
Cool.
And so when it comes to like the actual design of the mechanics on the playbook, one of the things is making sure that nothing on one side will break something on another side. And for the most part, the playbooks get designed as somewhat independent entities, just like designing a full PbtA playbook. Though that may change. And one of the exceptions, for example, which we added in over the last year was, and didn't come up during the character creation, is when you share a moment of intense emotion with someone and your end of session, actually not just, one of the examples is when you share a moment of intense emotion with someone move, which starts on your primary playbook to tell you what to do mechanically. For example, for me, for the innovator, share with them a time when one of your inventions failed to work as intended. Then ask them if they believe your inventions could save the world. And then, based on the yes or no answer, you get your effect from the secondary playbook. And writing all of those so that they worked no matter which playbooks you had in which order was one of the things where we had to set a specific structure for how we wrote those so that it worked.
When we kind of figured out how to do that, that was a super interesting moment because it was like, we're literally piecing together this move that you have, and its effects completely change depending on...
There's so many permutations of that.
There are. So if you write them in such a way, it kind of blends well into the secondary playbook, which tells you what happens when they say yes and no. And I just really like the whole, like, we're constructing a unique move that only this playbook combination will have.
Yeah, that's really neat. Because, like, I think you could do a mix and match, like A and B of anything. But yeah, like I said, because it's so many different permutations that, like, even if I had picked, the leader and then the demigod, like, I would have a different set of, questions for that. That's really cool.
Yeah, exactly. And if you swap them, your share a moment of intense emotion move completely changes.
Oh, that's really neat.
It's super cool.
And then the signature moves as well was something that, we had to make a move that embodied that archetype and make it fit in a page or a half of page worth of space, right? Yeah. So all those signature moves, all the additional moves, default moves, that's the hardest thing to fit in. And it's been the bane of my existence for these character sheets since the beginning. And you'll notice there's quite a few of them that butt up at the very end of the sheet.
Yeah. No, I remember that from when I was trying to, like, do the layout on, like, my playbooks. I was like, how many times can I change the font and or font size to, like, find the perfect combo of things that you can still read it, but it all fits on a page.
Yeah. And one of the choices in the last couple of versions was on the top sheets, we pushed all of the really good information about your character towards the middle of the page. So that the primary is on the right-hand side of the primary page and the secondary is on the left-hand side of the secondary page. So you really just have to look down that column. And then the kind of the stuff at the exterior is just kind of flavor. You've got your description of the playbooks, you've got art, you've got experience points, fellowship cool, that sort of stuff. That stuff you don't have to kind of worry about. You just keep your eyes in the middle, and that's all you need to be at.
Mm-hmm. Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think is one of the biggest flaws of character creations in this system? And what do you think is one of the best parts? And I know one of the things we already talked about a little bit is that it is time consuming, right? In comparison to some other Powered by the Apocalypse games. But is there anything else?
Anything else you'd like to add?
I mean, yeah, I think besides the fact that it's time consuming, it can definitely be a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing I mentioned beyond just because you're learning so much at once. And finding ways to streamline that still maintain the customizability is tricky.
Mm-hmm.
Because in a lot of more traditional systems, you have as many options, but they are not all on your sheet at once, right? You pull them into your sheet, you write in whatever choices you make for your class or your abilities at level 1, and otherwise your sheet is pretty straightforward. Because of the Powered by the Apocalypse structure we have, everything is on your sheet at first, and you're not going to use everything, and you don't even need everything at first, but it's there, and that can be intimidating. I've seen that be a thing that had to ease a lot of people through, and along similar lines, like option paralysis with just so many choices.
Mm-hmm. I know even for me, first looking at them, I was like, just because I'm that kind of person that it's like a visually overwhelmed too. And that's tough. But once somebody walks me through it, I'm like, oh, okay, I know what that's for.
Yeah.
And
daunting.
And it's in sections, right? For that very reason.
Right. Yeah. You guys did a really nice job of breaking it down and, making it so I understand why it's there for sure.
But so other than specifically the whole purpose of this thing, which is you get to merge two playbooks together in amazingly awesome ways. What is the other best part? I'm going to make you come up with something else.
Your game.
Yeah, other than the whole basis of your game. What is the other thing that is the best part about this character creation process that you have specifically created to accommodate that genre blending? I asked the hard ones.
I mean, I'm pretty proud of the attitudes and conditions that I came up with. There is an Easter egg that's kind of hidden in both of those. I'm not sure if anybody has noticed. One person has. In all of the playtesting, one person did notice it without any prompting. I won't spoil it.
Oh, I know this.
Okay, fine. You can tell us after we stop recording.
I can say it now and Ryan can cut this out.
I mean, it's fine.
Carry on.
No, if you've noticed it, I would love to hear.
Oh, okay. So
yep.
I assume that was
That's exactly it.
Your adorable little acrostic there.
Yeah, that took a lot of thesaurusing.
We did talk about that, the names for the archetype looks and stuff like that. I think
there's a part of me that really wants to say that there's another secret thing, even though there isn't, and just have that be a thing everyone looks for forever.
It's fine. Just cut this bit out so that everybody else will have to discover it on their own.
Yeah.
Well, that's fine. But yeah, aside from the genre blending and the blending of the two playbooks for character creation in Chimera, one of the things that I do love the most is when the backstory and relationships in this game pull in that blending and world building more than I've seen in a lot of other games. This game was heavily inspired by Descent into Midnight's character creation. And for those that are familiar with that, you might know what I'm talking about. For those not familiar, we did a whole series on it. Go check it out.
It's a great game.
It's a very, very good game.
Agree. Hey, I played it too. You could also go listen to it on She's a Super Geek.
You
See,
could.
we didn't play it. They can go
we
listen
built
to your
characters
podcast.
and we played it.
Oh, that's
Okay,
an
so you think you're better than us because we just built characters?
But the world building in Descent into Midnight kind of blends with the character creation, because you create characters first in Descent into Midnight, and then infer the world from that. This is kind of reverse, where we're building the world and then pulling the world into the characters as well, and our place in it, which I always find extremely exciting how people answer those questions.
Mm-hmm. So to answer Senda's very specific question of like which I think best supports the blending, besides all the hard work we did to plan.
Yeah,
because that wasn't enough for her.
Well, it's just that we've already talked about how cool it is, and I want to give you the chance to talk about something else.
Right, but you asked what supports the blending specifically. Yes. And the answer, I think, for me, like one of the parts that really helps with that is the trope list you established up front, because that, as mentioned, gives an idea of what the group is interested from the genres. And so when you are building up your character, you can look at those tropes and pull in bits and pieces, and suddenly your character has little bits of both genres because they have bits of tropes from both of them. Though generally, what is my favorite part of the character sheets? I am very proud of the relationship questions. I ended up writing most of those, and so I'm just proud of those.
They're very good. Yeah. I very much enjoyed them. So thank you.
I kind of forgot about the trope checklist at the beginning. It was, oh my God, it was so long ago. Yes. I mean, I know I did reference it at one point in our the end of last episode when we were talking about stuff, and I was like, didn't we say that?
Yes.
But I think that did a really good job in the beginning of establishing okay, here's what we're working with. And here's the fun bits that I want to play with, that I as a player am interested in. And obviously it was critical to our character creation, but also I forgot that we did, which means that it wasn't hard. It was not a thing that I had to think really hard, but it was just yes, this, and this, let's go. So yeah, that was really cool at the beginning.
We even have one trope to define still, the teammate that we lost to our greatest enemy.
That's what our fan fiction section is
exactly.
For. Is that our next question anyway?
Is it?
Yeah, it is. So that was a great segue, actually. Because we are in our fan fiction section. Tell me about the teammate that we lost.
Ooh, yeah.
You should say that into the microphone. Tell me about the teammate we lost.
So that's an interesting thing. So did we have a fifth person at that initial battle?
Yes.
Yeah, I think we had to, because that's when we became a team, right?
Yeah.
Is that fifth person, did we lose them that battle, or did we lose them later?
Or are we going to cheat and say that the fifth person was actually Ryan when he was alive?
Oh my gosh.
No, we're not.
To me, it is most interesting if we all came together, including that fifth person, won that battle, and then either at the end of that battle or later on in, episode 3, whatever it was.
After we've had long enough to care about
long enough to really care, right? Then we lost that person. Who was obviously dead.
Did they die, or did they become a spherist?
Oh, no, that's the thing, right? They're obviously very, very dead, just like Amr's, mentor.
Figure.
Yes,
mentor.
100% dead.
100% dead till season 4.
No possible way they could ever have survived that. Yes.
We saw them get disassembled by those weird disassembly bot things.
It was the little bugs. It was the little nano bug. Bug things. Oh no. That's terrible.
And there's no way that they can get reassembled.
No. Yeah, there's no way that they're ever going to come back as a nanobot.
Why would they?
Thing.
They're gone for good. Yeah. We lost them.
Absolutely.
They probably.
That is our greatest shame and failing in life.
I would love to name this character Bombshell, but
I wasn't going to say anything. I was holding it in.
No, obviously. I think we said at the beginning, didn't we?
Yeah.
That somebody.
Bombshell
I think
was
we
the best
said
of us.
when we determined that we had one that we lost. We said Bombshell.
Bombshell was the best of us. She was the best of us.
She was the best of us.
Poor Bombshell.
Poor Bombshell. Yeah,
okay.
I mean, I think that's. I don't know how much is there left to define. Your character creation and world building really like kind of messed up this question for us.
Hey, we did
yeah.
a lot of this, yeah.
What sort of shenanigans do we get up to? Like,
Well,
I mean, we're
obviously
trying to
dating
fight off the-
and
Yeah.
college, you know,
there's
like
a lot of
midterms.
mundane, fun college stuff, and like,
Yeah, like did we get invited to the party or not? Like obviously
Young
I did, but
adult-
Lindsay didn't.
I know. I spend a lot of my time sneaking into parties and mooning after Danielle, who ignores me.
Right.
Yeah. That's a lot of my
and
life.
I try my best to be a normal, late teens equivalent individual. I'm the person that walks in with the skateboard floating over my shoulder, and I say, "Hello, fellow youths,"
Yeah, how are your grades?
because I'm probably
And then there's at least one scene where Nis has to like go into a room and like take all of their guns and knives out. And,
no knives,
and
just
then
guns.
somebody goes,
just guns.
and the other one.
And
I do have a
You
gun that
have to have
shoots
that
knives.
trope
That's
at least
separate.
once.
yeah.
Yep.
You probably have a knife gun,
No, I have a gun that shoots knives. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Yep.
and there's probably a knife that is a gun.
There's a knife that's a gun
No.
that shoots knives, a
not
knife
yet.
with guns
Not yet.
engraved on it, a gun with filigree that looks like knives.
Also, I don't know
This
why
is
everyone
just
is.
a bayonet.
I also don't know why everyone is talking so much about like trying to act like normal teens. I'm a perfectly well-adjusted member of society. Thank you very much.
I am a perfectly average member of society. Thank you very much.
I do
Yeah, I know, and that's
perfectly.
the problem.
I'm the top of my engineering class. I don't see the problems here.
I, like everybody else, enjoy explosions.
Yeah.
Yes, I am corporeal.
I think this was very much in that, like, I know how to make explosions, so I am the person who causes the least lab fires in engineering class because I am the most fit to cause them.
Well, you actually know how to, because you know how to cause them, you also know how to not cause them.
And how to be safe when they happen.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh.
Nice.
Now, one thing I didn't mention, you said corporeal. One thing I didn't mention about my character is when I transform, I become solid.
What?
But like, I'm still like, I'm not like as transparent or anything like that, but I'm still like, I'm just more, I'm like physically there at
You're
that
like
point.
nebulous still.
Yeah. Like a nebulous physical.
I have a very important
Ethereal?
question.
I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is everyone majoring in?
Oh, that's a good question.
Obviously, for me, it's communications.
I was
Obviously.
going to say philosophy.
Yeah.
It was going to be one of those. I was like, what is the most white girl option? But I went with communications. Sorry to my sister, who is a communications major right now.
I think that I must be in like either animal science or like
I thought like maybe like urban planning.
yeah, it was
or
like
something.
I'm losing my words here for these things, but maybe urban planning would be a really good one. Be interesting, like, because then it's all about like where do you put the trees? Like where do you put the
Actual
shrubs?
agricultural sciences.
Yes, agricultural sciences. We could do all of those. But I think the problem is I don't think I actually have very good grades because I spend all of my time feeling like I have to protect Ox. And like at the same time mooning after Danielle. And then like
Your priorities are all out of
my
smarts.
priorities are super messed up. It's specifically a thing on my sheet that I've had to like deprioritize my personal life. And I think like I have to maintain like my off-campus apartment so that I can do all the things I need to do as the mask. I have to have like a part-time job on top of everything. So I'm like,
What is your part-time job?
I think I'm a barista.
Oh my God, you are.
See, part of the reason that I'm accidentally always there when things happen is because the cafe that I work at is the same one that y'all hang out at for like coffees and stuff after school.
Oh my gosh.
I think that
so
must
good.
be it.
I can imagine that Els like tries to get everybody's names spelling correctly.
But
the
she isn't actually super good at it. Right? Like,
Oh, that's gotta tear her up inside.
so every time she writes it down wrong and then somebody's like, swirls. Like, she's like, oh no, that was wrong. Oh, yeah.
Ryan's character goes in there and like says her full name.
And every time
It's the only one you get right.
Yeah.
KUXRADIA.
It's perfect. That's perfect.
But mostly I just put something steamy in front of you so that I guess you can like waft the mist.
I inhale the steam,
Yes.
the mist. Yep.
It's really just like that's all you order. It's just a cup of hot water.
With like flavoring in it.
I like the spice smell. Yeah.
Yeah. So like just a hot water steamed. So it's like really hot. And then just with a pump of something in it so that, you know, it's got good like olfactory
occasionally to try to fit in, I will like drink, right? And the liquid you can see go down and like
through you and just lands
just
on the
kind of
seat.
just sit there.
Does it just go right through you and just sit on the chair underneath you?
If I don't use my psionic abilities, yes.
Oh, there you go.
But if I concentrate hard enough, I can just hold it inside of me and then like I don't know.
At some point it's going to come out and it's going to look very bad.
Uh-huh.
Can you go outside and do that?
I
Okay,
imagine
so
that
we have communications and then agricultural
Yeah, I
sciences
think agricultural
or
sciences. Yeah.
something like that. Ryan, what did you say?
I would probably do history major.
And then what, engineering?
No, actually, I don't think so. Like, what am I going to learn from an engineering degree
Nothing.
at this
That you
point?
don't already
Yeah,
know.
nothing.
I do take engineering classes, and I do better than all the engineering majors, and it pisses them off a lot.
You're taking like the grad school level classes. Like,
get real, like, we're engineers. We're the ones who are supposed to be the best. I think my actual major,
I think maybe it's like fashion design so you can make the suits look better.
I was going to say, or like theater, because you manage all the special effects for the tech team.
Yeah, so you do all the tech
I think
stuff.
that's like my extracurriculars.
Oh,
Like I
yeah.
do theater. I'm also like I don't show up to like most of the clubs, but I'm somehow like the head of special effects of theater. I am the captain of like 4 different martial arts teams on campus, including fencing, and like I never show up to any practices. I just show up to the tournaments for those, and I still.
Do you even go to this school? Are you even enrolled here?
Maybe I'm not. Maybe I
Maybe
don't have a
that's
major.
really what's happening.
I don't have a major. I just like I take some history classes because I want to learn about just like villain groups, right? Because I'm curious about that. I go engineering classes mostly for access to the labs, not for the actual projects or the like education. I just do the tests and like go to the labs and then don't show up to lectures there.
So you
Just
just
like audit random classes. You don't actually like go here. You're not
No.
getting a major. You're just taking classes.
Exactly.
like when you go to the labs, you're probably just working on something completely different because you don't.
Yes. Everyone like will see my project, be like, "That seems unsafe here," and I just go, "Has it exploded yet?" Oh no, it won't explode, and then continue working on it.
It will when I want it to.
Exactly.
Like the actual project that you were supposed to be doing has already been completed in 5 minutes, and then
Yep.
you're just using the rest of the time for your own stuff.
You're like, yeah, I did it over there. And it's like still better than everybody else's. I love this. I love this team. This is so good. This is so good. Okay. So let's get into our last segment here, which is our advancement segment where we take it up a level. Sound effect.
Ooh, sound effects.
Sound effect.
There's a fancy sound effect for this.
It is.
Do 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 do.
Take it up a level. Take it up a level.
In this segment, we cover character advancement and character growth. So we will start with characters' mechanical growth. How do they level up and how do they change mechanically when that happens?
So everything we're about to tell you is a lie. Not really.
Wow.
But we are planning on re-examining advancement for some of the next version. So some of this could change, but it's pretty standard PbtA stuff. You have a potential track that when it fills up, you take an advancement, you mark potential whenever a move tells you, or whenever you roll a miss currently. We're considering some other things to add in, some different advancements and some changes with that. But currently, there are common advancements that everyone has. And once you've taken a few of those, you unlock your playbook-specific advancements, which give you your signature move on your secondary playbook, some extra features and abilities and stuff for your signature move on your primary playbook, etc.
Yep. And once you get into those advancements, I guess you could call them, there is also the retirement advancement that you can have, where if you think your character's story is done, or you've gotten to that point, you can select one of those retirement advancements. And what we did here is we have 2 different retirement tracks for every archetype. So in the end, you've got 4 different choices of how you want your character to go out. So for some, you could be going out in a blaze of glory. For some, it's retiring and teaching at the local university for the rest of your life or whatever. So there's all sorts of different ways you can lead up to how you want your character to kind of exit the game at that point, which is I feel is a lot better than this is the only option you have.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Definitely. I like that it gives you a choice, because I think that, you know, depending on, especially once you've like combined different playbooks and all that kind of stuff, like a one size fits all thing is just not going to work.
In generally, advancement looks like it does in other PbtA games in terms of what it does for the narrative and for the character. You have, I think, a little bit more flexibility to go deep into your character in Chimera than most PbtA games do. I think one of the common criticisms I've seen of PbtA games is that you can end up borrowing things from other playbooks and you sort of lose your core identity a little, which is especially a problem with PbtA games with less playbooks. And so generally that means if you're taking a move from another playbook, you're taking a move from another character. And so you become more like another character at the table.
Oh, yeah. I could definitely see that.
Chimera, that is not a problem when we have 18 playbooks already, at least 30 playbooks planned, hypothetically infinite playbooks. You will never have a problem there. But more specifically, I think there's flexibility in the advancements in that you can choose advancements that focus entirely on your core playbooks and never take an advancement that requires you to look at another playbook and have about 10 to 12 different advancements, I think, off the top of my head. Or you could never look at your playbooks again and start borrowing advancements from other playbooks until you retire. It gives you a neat flexibility in that way.
So how would you say that, like, as you actually advance and you take more advancements, mechanically, of course, you take more advancements, right? Narratively, how do you see that play out in the actual story that you are telling at the table?
Yeah, I think it really depends on which advancements you're taking, right? Like one of the things that I baked into all of the advancements for the magical girls is in the when you select extra abilities, there is an advancement. So for mine, it says select a spirit ability and then enhance your transformation sequence the second time this is chosen. So you can choose it up to twice. So if you fill in that and you get as many abilities as you can get for this playbook, you get to kind of narratively beef up your transformation sequence. This is kind of like the Sailor Moon going eternal or whatever sort of deal, right? This is like, I was great before, but now I'm even better. And it kind of adds to your character's narrative at that point. Other things, selecting moves from other playbooks, you would probably be learning those things from other people or picking up on things from the world that you're in. And there might be some moves that give you special things, and narratively you're going to have to be able to explain how you got those things. You can't just be like, oh, now I have a Pact of the Weapon from the Bound playbook, which is part of the fantasy genre. It's like, well, how do you explain that?
Okay, well, now I got laser eyes, so let's go.
You now have a warlock weapon that is bound to like an entity that grants you its power through this sword. How did you get that? Yeah. Hold on, we're gonna talk about
that raises a question. Does it have to be from a playbook with the genres you're using? Or can it be any Chimera playbook?
Yes.
You're like,
generally,
no one's ever
yes.
asked
Obviously,
me
if you can do whatever you want, right? You
You're
have
like,
the
I'm
moves
not
that are
coming
all
into your
compatible.
house.
Right, so the moves are all compatible. It's not like if you were playing like one PbtA game and you took a move from another PbtA game, it would take some fiddling. They work. It's just not necessarily the genre's core to your game. But if group and or the game master and or you are interested or cool with it.
Yeah, so I guess the question is, would you suggest that? Or would you say, I would avoid it?
I would suggest sticking to the genres that you're using with one caveat. In the superhero genre, the Stranded playbook has a default move where you are working towards your way home. And once you fill up that progression track, you unlock the ability to go back home and back to this world as well.
In which case something else might make sense.
Right. And in doing so, you create that other world. When you create that other world, you can select genre tropes from genres that you're not including in your main game. So that could be, in our situation, we've got magical girls and superheroes blended. My home world could be fantasy and superheroes blended. And we would pick tropes from those. And maybe if my world still wasn't destroyed and sphericalized or whatever, if it still exists and we go back there and I learn stuff from that fantasy genre, it might be genre appropriate for me to pick additional moves from the fantasy genre in a campaign for this.
So the other thing I'll say about the advancement is there is nothing mandatory in terms of how it shapes the narrative. I think one of the things I hope to do with our next iteration is to add some suggestions on what that might look like, similar to what Ryan said. But because this game is meant to be flexible, there isn't necessarily you took a move from the playbook, you have to learn it from someone else. But if your character takes an advancement that's like, I gain a new ability, chances are other characters will comment on that in the narrative. Because if you suddenly start shooting fireballs and you could never do that before, they'd be like, hey,
what happened?
What's going on?
Even if it's like a quick conversation, there's at least some narrative generated there. But yeah. The narrative is as much or as little as you want from it when you advance.
Absolutely.
So, okay, here's a question that I wanted to ask. And I meant to put it in the outline and then, I fell and broke my hand and had surgery and all that. What genres do you either want to work on next or do you hope people make for this game? What is something that you really would love to see?
I think for genres, so two microgenres that I have drafts of that I need a lot more fiddling because I wrote them on an airplane 3 years ago or 2 years ago, 4 hours of sleep. And I have not
Which
been
is
touched
when everybody does their best work.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Are the romance and punk microgenres. So the punk microgenre could then be combined with either someone could then take it and build out a full cyberpunk genre using that basis, or someone else could build a sci-fi genre, and then you could add the punk to sort of turn into a bit of cyberpunk, right? And I really want to do those. And I'm also really interested in making a full mystery genre personally, because we have the mystery microgenre, which allows you to add a flavor of mystery to any game you play. But mystery itself varies so much from procedurals to detective fiction to suspense. And I kind of want to make probably detective fiction because that's one of my favorite genres of mystery. I really enjoy Agatha Christie style stories. So yeah.
Yeah, that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
A cool noir style.
Yeah.
thing.
Noir is another one that you could have.
Yeah. We had talked about if you had archetypes for the mystery genre, those archetypes would help you solve mysteries better because they're baked into that sort of thing. So if you have a blend of a superhero and a mystery genre character archetype, now your superhero's just better at solving mysteries, right? And then you're also going to be playing a campaign that is, or a one shot that is for sure going to be an overarching mystery of some sort, right? So that would be super interesting.
I'm also even with superheroes mystery, you have very distinctive tonally between, say, Spider-Man Noir and Jessica Jones and Daredevil, and all of them do mystery and superheroes, but operate in different tropes of mystery.
Yep.
Definitely.
For myself, my first answer would have been cyberpunk as the next genre, because I really, really want to blend magical girls with cyberpunk. that's been on my next to-do list since the beginning of selecting these three for the main genres. After our discussion at the beginning of the character creation episodes in this series, I really want to do a Western genre.
I mean, also
as well.
Yes.
And
yes.
I've already figured out the names of 6 archetypes for a Western genre.
Of course you have.
Do you not sleep?
I'm like,
Brian just dreams in playbooks.
it's true. I do have 10 potential archetypes for Cyberpunk as well, kind of plotted out, and I really want to do a science fantasy type, like a Star Trek sort of interplanetary narrative of sorts, right? Where you could do either
Space
Star Trek
discovery.
or Star Wars or whatever.
Star Wars is different,
like,
but I would like to do a space opera one.
Yeah.
Right. I would like to do a space opera one at
Space
one
opera
point.
and
Star Trek and
space,
Star Wars
space
are not
exploration would be
different.
two very cool genres.
Yeah. So those
There's
are kind of
infinite genres we could do.
I've got so many genres at the top of my
See,
list.
here's the thing: is I wish I knew more about designing in PbtA, because I'm I love tropes. But I don't know how to design games. So.
I mean, at least our goal with this is that micro-genres should be easy for someone to design. Genres are also relatively easy, but they're a lot of work because you have to design the playbooks, and the playbooks involve a lot of moves and a lot of writing and mechanics. But a micro-genre, if you wanted to add a little bit of sci-fi flavor to your game, is 2 moves, a core mechanic, and some tropes. And that's it. That's all you really need. You could also add some GM moves if you're feeling kind to the GM. But all of it comes in about 2 pages, usually. All our micro-genres fit in a couple hundred words in 2 pages. And so our hope is to provide tools that anyone could be like, oh yeah, I really enjoyed this genre, and while I don't want to spend time writing all the playbooks, I want to add a little bit of flavor of it to my game. Here's how I can do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we can't wait, I think, to see all the more genres that you continue to add, because it's very exciting to watch it just broaden out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything else that we might have missed that you want to make sure that people know or hear about Chimera?
I mean, it's evolving constantly towards the better, I think, right now. As we get closer and closer to a potential Kickstarter down the line, this game is going to be just getting better and better and more streamlined and easier to access and play games with friends and all that sort of stuff. So you can keep in tabs on all of that. I'm trying to keep a relatively robust devlog on our itch page. So you can go to play.chimera.games and find all the cool stuff that we're talking about there. And I'm just really excited for the next version when we get to add 12 more playbooks.
Yeah.
That's a lot of playbooks.
It is a lot of playbooks.
What's wrong with you?
Well,
There are so
hopefully
many-
in the future, we won't have to write more playbooks.
My experience, my personal experience with writing PbtA is that moves are they look really easy on paper, but they're so hard to write. So I am not jealous of all the moves that you are writing. But Amr, I'm sorry because I interrupted you. Please continue.
No. I was going to say, one of the other things to look forward to is, especially once we eventually get to Kickstarter, part of the reason we're keeping it to 3 genres and why right now we only had 18 playbooks, even though originally there was a point where there were 30 fully designed playbooks, is because by narrowing it down, we could focus on the core mechanics and making sure that those playbooks set the standard for what we want. And so we're probably going to be with the 3 core genres for a little bit until we've fiddled out every single bit that the game itself is relatively static. But after that point, not only will there be more genres, hopefully with Kickstarting and stuff, we can get other people on and pay them to write genres. And then you could get to see all sorts of talented and creative people off the internet.
Yeah.
Who only exist on the internet, by the way.
Yeah,
they're not
they don't
real.
exist in real.
You can't convince me any of our game designers are real. I've been to cons. They're not. They're all holograms, by the way. They're all so if you've been to a game design con, basically there's just a bunch of robots that go around that have holograms that pop up of the game designers.
Correct. Yes.
That's true.
That sounds right. Yeah.
Now, one of the things that I want to also do is game specific genres, like being able to convert archetypes from another game. So we could maybe talk with like the Descent into Midnight crew, and Descent into Midnight crew could create some archetypes for Chimera, right? Obviously, we would pay them for this work. And then you'd be able to blend our existing genres with Chimera specific, but with the flavor of Descent into Midnight, for instance, archetypes, and then have that sort of interesting blend, or do that with like Monster Hearts or whatever. I mean, the possibilities are kind of endless there. As long as a game has playbooks, maybe we can adapt it to Chimera, and maybe you could even do that for your own home games and stuff too.
I would like to make some more spooky playbooks. I would like to request that. There needs to be more blood magic. There needs to be more necromancy.
Yep.
Oh,
there needs to be more evil.
I was going to suggest this little game called Hydro Hackers. Then you could like blend Hydropunk in with everything. Just
yeah,
I have
absolutely.
that one on the bookshelf.
Right?
What I'm hearing is that if I ever need to distract Ryan for like a long period of time, I can get him started on doing the conversion for Palladium characters to Chimera, and then I'll just not see them for like 2 years until they figure it out.
Just be
There's too many. There's too many.
I just saw your
Well,
eyes
you better
go.
start working on your Ninja Turtles Chimera playbooks.
Hey, once somebody makes a Ninja Turtles PbtA game, let me know, and we'll see if we can make a Chimera version.
I will not be there for that.
No.
You know how I feel about it.
I know.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to go ahead and just call it there.
There are 4 people here, 2 of whom actually host this show.
Not me.
Senda being the person that keeps it on track.
Which is sort of astonishing, isn't it, considering my track record? But I am here to be professional.
But she's hungry, so let's wrap it up.
Probably. I wasn't going to tell them that. Yeah. So thank you both so much for being here to talk about Chimera. It sounds extremely cool. And it was great having you on as guests on this show that is obviously mine.
It has been a mind-blowing experience being a guest on a show that is definitely not mine at all.
Yeah. Good. Great.
Great. Do you want to remind everybody, both of you, where they can find you and the stuff that you're working on? Ryan.
I guess I can go.
I can go.
Ryan goes.
Yes,
Yes, Ryan
Somebody
goes.
go.
Yeah, okay.
No,
My name
Ryan's
is Ryan Boelter, and I am a game designer of Chimera, the game that we covered this series, and also occasionally a co-host, apparently, on a character creation cast podcast that nobody's ever heard of, and also do editing and sound design for a horror Borealis and the Broadswords, and also doing a audio drama that I'm writing currently, season 1 for Side Heroes. You can find pretty much all of my projects listed on my Twitter at Lord Neptune.
Hi, I'm Amr Ammourazz, professional streamer, game designer, podcaster, using my professional streamer, game designer, podcaster voice, and I don't know how much longer I can keep this bit out without laughing. But you can find me everywhere on the internet at Ammourazz, specifically my Twitter, my itch. You can also find me on the Chimera itch. If you go to play.chimera.games, you can acquire this game for your very own self. Including all the materials that we use today and some of the materials that we've teased that are going to be coming. Other than that, catch me on streams, such as on Saturday on the Lark Network, Super Splash of Color stream, weekly, every Saturday morning at 12 CST. And yeah, just keep an eye out on my Twitter for all the other various places I appear or other various projects I take a part in. That's it for me.
I love that voice.
I
It's
managed to keep the
amazing.
voice up the entire time. Thank you.
I'm so proud of you.
See, the problem isn't doing the voice. The problem is doing the voice and not laughing.
It's okay. When I do the voice, I sound like Siri, so I don't usually. I'm going to give you Google Map directions.
I have to come up with, I don't know if I
At the
have
next intersection.
a good voice. Senda, thank you for being my co-host and keeping everything on track.
You're so welcome, Amelia.
It's so fun having you on again. This was a good time. Do you want to tell people where they can find you and the things that you are working on?
Yes, gosh. Now I have to include the things that I am working on, huh? The list is going to get longer.
I mean, only if you want
Well,
to.
I'm going to because it gave me the opportunity. So you can mostly find me on Twitter. It's at Idella Mifflin, IDELLAMITHLYNND. Yes, you can spell it really fast. Or you can find me at Pandas Talk Games, which is Pandas Talking Games, the podcast where I chat with gaming mogul Phil Vecchione about gaming topics that we get from listeners. And basically, we'll answer whatever you want us to chat about. We'll chat about it. Let us know. And you can find the back episodes of She's a Super Geek at sassgeek.com or your podcatcher of choice. I do some articles over at Gnome Stew. And if you want to catch up with my game designs, you can catch Love and Justice, the Hydra Hackers, Alpha, Beta, Ashcan. There we go. That was the right word. There's the Hydra Hackers Ashcan, which I did a bunch of development work for. The quick start for Turning Point is up on Drive-Thru RPG. And you can also get Connections is in the Love and Resistance game compilation that just came out. There's more stuff, but that's all the stuff that you can easily get your hands on in this exact moment. Cool.
Wow. Thank you, all of you, for sitting down with us. And thank you to everyone for tuning in.
Call to action.
Yeah, like that.
I really wish I could have caught Amelia today to record this with to get her thoughts on the game, but maybe I will do that next time. I know I thoroughly enjoyed the game, though I am a little biased. However, having said that, it warmed my heart to hear some of the discussion that Amelia and Senda brought to the table this episode, and I am really glad they enjoyed the game so far. And I wanted to send an extra thank you out to Senda for stepping in as guest co-host for this entire series. You were fantastic, Senda, and we would be so happy to have you on anytime you'd like. Now, before we head out and get to the outtakes, we have just a couple announcements for you. One thing I'd like to highlight is previous guest on the show, Tracy Barnett, is currently doing a Kickstarter for You Are The Dungeon. We had a ton of fun covering that game in our series, and now you can back the Kickstarter to back a really fun campaign. If we can get the funding all the way to $30,000, a physical tarot deck will be created with custom images on them to help inspire your dungeon creation even more. So check out a link to that in the show notes. Another thing to keep in mind on the way out of this episode is to check out play.chimera.games and pick yourself up a copy if you would like. If you already got a copy or love what you heard, we would love it if you would leave a rating or review on the Chimera page, or just tell your friends about the game or about these episodes if they aren't familiar with the show. Either way, we are just really happy to have had you here for this series. But join us back here in 3 weeks to see if I was fully usurped as a co-host by Senda, or if I'll rise from the ashes and be here for some epic character creation with Amelia and our guest. That'll make sense when you hear what our next game is. Until then, take care everyone, stay safe, and keep making those amazing people. We'll see you next time. Character Creation Cast is a production of the One Shot Podcast Network and can be found online at www.charactercreationcast.com. Head to the website to get more information on our hosts, this show, and even our press kit. Character Creation Cast can also be found on Twitter at CreationCast or on our Discord server at discord.charactercreationcast.com. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Boelter, and I can be found on Twitter at Lord Neptune or online at lordneptune.com. Our other host, Amelia Antrim, can be found on Twitter at Ginger Reckoning. Music for this episode is used with a Creative Commons license or with permission from the podcast they originated from. Further information can be found within the show notes. Our main theme music is Hero Remix by Steve Combs and is used with a Creative Commons license. This podcast is owned by us under Creative Commons. This episode was edited by Ryan Boelter. Further information for the game systems used and today's guests can be found in the show notes. If you'd like to leave us a rating or review, we have links to various review platforms out there, including Apple Podcasts, in our show notes. Also, check the show notes for links to our other projects. Thanks for joining us, and remember, we find that the best part of any role-playing game is character creation. So go out there and create some amazing people. We will see you next time.
Now we gotta read some show blurbs.
Show blurbs.
Show blurbs.
Show blurbs.
Show blurbs.
Character Creation Cast is hosted by the One Shot Podcast Network. If you enjoyed our show, visit oneshotpodcast.com, where you'll find other great shows like A Horror Borealis.
A Horror Borealis is an actual play Monster of the Week podcast set in the 1990s in the fictional town of Revenant, Alaska, just south of the nation's least visited national park and way north of everything else. A reclusive small game hunter with a magical secret, a young anarchist librarian with a passion for conspiracy theory, and a sensible park ranger with a strong local book club following find themselves pulled together by common threads woven mysteriously into their past when monsters begin plaguing their tiny community. But they soon discover the things they're fighting run much deeper and much closer to home. Tune in for a story about identity, empathy, community, mental illness, and healing, and stay for the beloved local diner.
I see waveforms.
Yeah. See,
there are the good waveforms
The
here.
good
even.
kind of waveform.
you even
I
said
think so.
clicky, which just...
Actually, I told you, it's the Senda method.
It is. In fact, there was Phil was telling me about the other day. One of the gentlemen timed them in to go to start from a directed mark, and he said record instead of clicky, and they were all like, "What are you doing with your life?" So
That's the wrong word.
yeah,
I don't understand. What am I supposed to do?
yeah. What do I do now? I don't know.
Instructions unclear.
Record what? I was supposed to click.
Yeah.
That's the whole point.
So that also made me giggle.
There you go. All right. I'm feeling very strange because I don't do anything as a host.
Oh,
Yeah, shut up, Ryan.
we're gonna see how good I am at hosting your show.
I know. The tables have turned.
I don't know if it makes you feel better. I'm also like, oh, I have to ask the questions this time.
Oh.
I don't recognize the dog when it got shaved.
She looks so flat.
I know. I was like, did you get a new dog? What's going on?
What's happening?
Uh-huh.
Let's see. I have to talk about where people find me on the internet, right? Okay, good.
Yeah.
I think I still know the answer to that question.
Is that where you just go into Panda's talking game mode and list off all the stuff?
Maybe.
We're going to see what kind of show we end up with at the end here. And
It'll be
maybe
fun.
it'll be Character Creation Cast. Maybe it won't, but
Character Panda cast?
yeah.
You
Panda Creation.
I have a
Panda
little bit of like
creation.
this, you know what happens when you make me host things, right? It's like, I don't feel like this is an unknown territory. What you get when you're like, Senda, host a thing. I'm like, well, I'm going to talk a lot. And then I'll shut up and let you talk.
It's fine. It's fine.
So, hey, we're just the guests here. You get to decide how much you want to talk.
It's true.
Well, actually, but that's exactly the thing, right? Is that you should talk a lot more than me because you're the guest. Really?
Well, you would think that. And yes,
Well, funny thing,
I'm on this show. So
when I run this through Otter AI and assign names to all the parts that are talkie, it gives a percentage of how much of the episode each person talks.
That's really cool and interesting.
Uh-huh.
I am now fascinated.
Yeah. I would use the word terrified to find the answer personally, but
Concerned.
we got the spectrum there from fascinated to terrified with concern in the middle.
And how do I rank?
We're pretty on par with one another at about like, between 20 and 30% or so.
Oh, that's about where we should be.
Yeah. And then the guests are usually like 50 to 60% total or so, which is really nice.
We talk about as much as our guests do. That's okay.
No, about half. We're about half.
There's two of us, and then usually like one or two guests. So
yeah,
about half.
that sounds about right to me.
Yeah, so we'll see where the rankings come in at the end, I guess.
Do you do outtakes?
All right, Senda,
of course we do.
It's
of course we do.
We win.
Oh, it's a competition now.
I told you, I learned from Panda's Talking Games and from other podcasts of that era.
My apologies.
It's fine.
Okay, so I won't worry about anything but not cussing.
Right, exactly. And we'll bleep that out if it happens.
Okay, I will.
With my language. Bleep.
And we'll just be very disappointed.
Yep.
Oh,
No, here's the thing. If I can handle not swearing through 4 hours of recording, I think you can too.
Oh, I'm very sure that I can. It's just I don't worry about it at all for pandas because I'm just
Right.
like,
No.
whatever.
Right.
So,
Okay. Are we ready? All right. I'll do a 5 count and then we'll get going. Because I'm purple still, right? Ryan,
Yes.
You didn't mess that up for me.
No, that would be way too confusing.
Okay.
Ryan just
I
going
learned
full.
pain meds today. I was like, I'm gonna be okay for this recording. I'm not gonna be on drugs. But I could not handle that.
Yeah,
You messed with my colors.
you are purple. Senda is my color, orange. So I'm the one that has to pay attention here.
Right. That's fair. Don't say the orange parts. Okay.
Yep.
I'm not editing anything right now, but I'm still like, I'm very busy. Like, this is the only podcast I'm actively doing at the moment, despite the other 2 that I'm like planning and working on. But that's still too much.
The day that perfect AI editing exists is the day that it's over for everyone who wants to make a podcast.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's going to be so many.
There's like no longer going to be an excuse not to. Like, that's the thing I think that keeps most of us sane is like, but I don't have the time to edit.
I don't even edit that. So I'm down to 1 podcast and I don't even edit it anymore. I just put post-production stuff at the beginning of the year. I'm like, we're intelligent, right?
It's fine enough.
It's cool.
Close enough.
Just chop it here, chop it there, throw it into the episode, and you're good to go.
Done. I used to be
Wash your hands.
I have strong opinions in terms of if I'm going to clean up a show a lot about, exactly what gets edited and how I deal with ums and ahs and stuff. And I just, there was a pandemic, a panini. I threw it all out the window.
But you know what though? Like when I was doing Garbage of the 5 Rings too, even that I like didn't edit very much. There's something about when it's only like 2 people talking too.
It's
I think
easier.
that like, and once you've built a rapport with that person too, that like you don't need to edit almost. I mean, sometimes you do, but not nearly as much.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
This will be our first series that has been edited by a guest. So,
Whoa.
which is me, I guess.
I was like, I'm not editing.
I was like, who are you making edit this?
No. Oh, we didn't tell you,
I'm not
Senda.
doing it.
Like scared us all there, right?
No.
Everybody's face was
I wasn't particularly scared. I was more just concerned about the next episode of your podcast not existing. Because with me,
it wasn't a matter of no one will ever get to hear about Chimera.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Mine used to all be like on a bookshelf in my room, and then I moved, and now all my RPG stuff is out in the living room. And so every time we record, I'm like, shoot, it's not right next to me like it was. It's like,
mine is actually usually right next to me, but they went out into the living room on Thursday night for my personal game night, and they didn't come back.
So not prepared.
Yeah, so not prepared. Here we are. All right.
Gosh, I was still married. Oh,
right?
I think the answer's the same, right? Ooh.
Although actually,
I
wasn't married then. I think I got divorced in 2015, but
right.
But you get it. You get it. I'm with you.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
No one asked me what I was up to in 2017. You don't want the answer.
You were still married too?
Now I'm fascinated, but
I was graduating high school.
I feel really old now. Okay.
I told you. You don't want the answer.
2017, I had a kindergarten.
No, 2016. No. For the 2017. No, I was out of high school then. It's fine. It's good. It's fine. 1 year passed. I was first year of college.
Passed. Yeah, there you go.
Oh man, 2017. I had like an 8-year-old.
Right. Yeah. Nate was born in 2011. Yeah. I know. Senda and I are over here nodding.
Yeah.
Like, we had already been like married and then unmarried and then had kids.
Single parenting.
We
Doing all
ran
that.
the gambit by that point.
Made the bad life decisions. Came back from the bad life
We
decisions.
did it. We undid it. It's fine.
That's also the year I discovered tabletop RPGs, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. So.
I can't.
Okay.
Fluffy kitty.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You're gonna have meows now. I didn't think of this when I left the door open. I was like, I'm home alone.
I have no problems with that.
That's a big kitty.
He's got a feather duster for a tail.
Oh, look at that.
Look at that. He's great. I love him.
You have to leave. You're meowing. You have to be quiet or you're gonna have to leave. What's it gonna be?
Aw.
Okay, I'm so sorry. Give me 1 second. I will remove the cat.
I'm actually going to go grab something else to drink real quick, too.
Oh, sure.
I'm just about out. Seems like a good time.
Kitty, go bye-bye.
Good thing you edit this show.
Yep. Meow.
Oh. While we were doing kitty and water
Yes.
break, I got distracted by a tweet, which is, you discovered that a friend has, improbable though it may sound, never seen a movie. Their parents didn't show them any growing up and they've never been interested until now. You've got to show them 5 films to convince them of the power of the medium. What 5 do you choose?
That's impossible.
Oh, no. That's impossible.
Right? My list so far has started with Spider-Verse and Knives Out.
Okay. Okay. Good. Yes.
Get one of the best animations, a really good mystery. Yeah, right? Yeah, right? That's what distracted me. Anyways, back to this recording.
Yeah.
Can't hear you.
Oh, Amelia, I see you making mouth noise, but
What did you have to pick? You had to pick five what?
Movies?
5 movies.
5 movies.
to show a person who has never seen movies before, and you have to convince them in 5 movies only of the power of the medium.
Oh, I would also pick Hot Fuzz.
Hot Fuzz is solid. Hot Fuzz is solid right there.
It's a great comedy / buddy cop movie, maybe. I love that movie so much.
That's solid.
But
pick.
your other 2 are excellent. I also would pick His Girl Friday, which is like an old Cary Grant movie, black and white. But it's like one of the first movies where they did overlapping dialogue. Oh, so good. I love that movie so much. It's my hot takes.
Okay. Okay. Sorry. I believe we were at additional moves. No, you talked about those. I believe we were at the fellowship pool.
Fellowship pool, yeah.
And this is why I don't envy your podcast, because editing character creation is like the hardest part. And you do it for a whole show and then you have to edit all of it.
All the silences,
Yes,
all
because
the...
there's so much time while people are thinking or writing or like...
It's just clean it up, truncate silence. Good to go.
No.
Yeah, but there's also like talking in the background, like while we're doing those things.
Yeah.
It's not just...
For
Or
example,
also
I'm-
like dramatic
I'm ruining
pauses.
it for you right now.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's fine. This is all going in the outtakes, so it's fine.
Instead of saying I'm ruining it for you by continuing to talk.
Oh, excuse me. I couldn't mute myself fast enough. Oh.
Sorry, I went out to the kitchen to get water and I was like, I forgot to move my bread.
No.
Oh, no. So I moved the bread. It's okay. It's a very forgiving recipe. And then now it just has to like re-rise again in its actual shaped form.
So unbaked bread.
Yeah, it's not baked.
Okay, I'm like, why would you be moving baked bread? What's going on?
So the cat doesn't get it, obviously.
I mean, that's fair.
I mean, yes, but no, it hasn't been baked yet. But then, so now it'll rise. It's just about 4, so it'll rise till about 5:30, and then I'll turn the oven on, and then I'll have fresh baked bread for dinner.
Ooh,
and that might be all I eat because.
What more could you need?
Fresh baked bread?
Maybe if you had like some
God.
sliced cheese or like apple slices to go with it, that would be really
I like doing like I've got all sorts of stuff to put on fresh baked bread. The one thing that has come out of this pandemic for me, as I'm sure with many, is that I make bread now consistently.
So that's effectively how it's split up. I'm using the word effectively way too much, so I'll probably cut one of those.
Say it again, Ryan. Say it again.
I'll effectively cut some of those. It's fine.
Clickety click.
Clickety clack.
click clack.
Wow, that was such a radio voice count-in. I'm
It was.
impressed.
Every time we
good.
do it, our guests are like, "Oh, why don't you talk like that all the time?"
Because it hurt. Well, I did the cold open once for April Fool's Day with that voice, and it was not a fun experience. But that was like a 10-minute cold open.
Yeah, I think I tried to whisper my way through that one.
You did.
Yeah, ASMR.
It was the ASMR opener.
Yeah.
Radio voices are fun, though.
They are fun.
Next year, for real, we're going to do what I want for April Fool's, though.
Oh.
Oh, are you going to tell us what it is, or
Yeah,
is it
I
a
want to
secret?
do. I want to do a GURPS series
Yeah. For the April series.
for our April series.
For April.
I want to do GURPS.
I would love to learn about GURPS finally.
I mean, if you want people who probably aren't available but who are really good at GURPS, you could check out the Film Reroll crew
Oh,
and poke them.
because I
Or
think we asked
maybe even like
Jeff and John, and they were like, "We like to make fun of GURPS, but we don't really know it."
because Film Reroll does all their stuff in GURPS, and there's. I'm blanking on his name, but they have someone who helps them actually set up, like who isn't part of the cast most of the time, who's just there to do backstage stuff, who like helps create the characters and the systems. So he might be someone who'll be around to do that.
Oh, that's
Cool.
good to know. Because I really want. But here's the question: are they cool with the fact that I don't really care about GURPS?
Yeah, that's the
I have
thing.
no idea.
You have to find someone
but
who
one
knows
of the
it,
players
but is
also
okay with
took
you
3
making fun
years
of
to
it.
learn GURPS, so shrugs.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's fair. Because we bashed Heroes Unlimited quite a bit, with good reason.
I mean, that series was so fun, and it's so
was
much
a lot
fun
of
to
fun.
listen back to. Like, Jeff and John are hilarious, for starters. Like, they're just funny. And I love when we get to the point where they're making up rules to see if I'll believe them. Like,
Because it's Palladium.
because it's bloody. And they're like, well, actually, if you go and look at the book, and then I'm like, is that true? I don't like to see like just how far they can go and how many exasperated sighs. Like, I think somebody had a counter when they were listening to how many exasperated sighs I let out in that series.
There's so many.
There's
so many.
so many.
Something like an hour ago, I had it in my head. Oh, I should say that because it's relevant to something, but now I don't remember what it was.
I just realized I got all the character sheet stuff up, but I didn't pull up the episode notes. I gotta do that real quick.
There you go.
Sorry.
Yeah, if I need to see them both at the same time, then I'm gonna have to do some rearranging here. For the moment,
You probably don't because
I probably don't.
we're full on in character mode, and then we just introduce our characters at the beginning of next episode. So we'll just talk a bit about our characters, and then
Because
we
we're
got
starting with
fanfic next episode.
relationships today, yeah?
Backstory,
Backstory. Well, I mean, but I did that part.
but we got to talk about it.
Okay, well, fine. I guess you want them to hear about it.
Ryan, it's not your show. You don't get to tell her
I know.
what we're
I
doing
know.
today.
That's true.
Excuse you.
I think that's actually what I had. Okay, so I threw a tweet out there at LeVar Burton to see if he wanted to do Roleplay Rainbow, a take on reading Rainbow for kids for RPGs, which would be really fun. But if he says, yeah, but you have to commit fully to this and nothing else, I might have to leave C3 for LeVar Burton.
I would understand. You know,
yeah,
like,
I could not judge you. If you were like Chimera as a solo project now, I'd understand. Yeah.
I mean, look, I've been left for worse reasons. You know, that's all I'm saying.
I mean, if LeVar Burton calls and says, "Hey, let's do this project, but you gotta move to LA or something," and then be like, "Well, that's probably what's going to happen."
If somebody
now.
was like, "Who's your one podcasting freebie?" and you said LeVar Burton, I'd be like, "Okay."
Yep.
And I'm glad we have all this recorded.
There you go. So if you want to take over
Isn't he
Senda
going to go like
permanently,
host
if that
Jeopardy or
happens,
something now though? So he's probably very busy.
everybody wants him to. I don't know if he's officially going to. yet.
Apparently that's part of why Aaron Rodgers wants to leave the Green Bay Packers, by the way.
Yeah,
is
because
so he can go
of
host Jeopardy.
Yeah, exactly.
Which, like, good riddance. Go host Jeopardy then.
I mean, really what it comes down to is I don't have a problem hosting tons of shows as long as we discussed last time.
You don't have to edit.
I don't have to edit them.
Yeah.
Right.
I would still probably edit.
I don't think LeVar Burton has to. I don't
think LeVar Burton is going to be your editor. I just don't I feel like that's...
If LeVar Burton's involved, maybe we can pull some strings to get
Maybe
C3
he knows
edited.
somebody.
That's probably true.
Maybe you could take some of your Reading Rainbow money and pay somebody to edit this show, Ryan.
Hey, future Ryan, cut all this out.
Cut all of this out. That's wild.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Senda and Amelia, it's y'all's jobs as co-hosts to get us back on track.
That's true. We're just
apologies.
We're busy being single moms right now, so
sometimes we just have to connect on this front.
maybe somebody else could take on a little bit of the work for once.
Well,
so normally, like when we start up, I like start with like the intro and stuff, Ryan. But like, I don't,
we were somewhere
kind of like in the middle of a thing.
We
so
are just about to get into the backstory questions.
Okay.
So I think if we just start with a 5 seconds of silence and just go right into as if
Backstory.
we never did anything.
Okay.
We've been here all along.
We've been here all along.
Recording studio.
Although I think Amr, your quality might be different because you're using a different mic, but that's fine.
Am I not going through the right microphone? I am going through the right
No, you're
microphone.
fine. I think you were on a headset last time.
No, I had the headphones on, but I used this microphone always.
Fun.
My headphones are just not charged, and I can't find their cable.
Oh, there
so
you
I'm
go.
using low quality earphones.
Do
That's fine.
you have the springy thing on your desk? Okay, here's a really funny thing, and I had to do this. Do you see how this ribbon? If you bump your desk, and I just heard it, which is why I mentioned it. It goes because the springs go vibrate.
Yeah, I've been meaning to set up a shock mount with it, but for the most part, I just don't touch my deck.
Well, even the shock mount, like I had a shock mount on mine, but that spring just...
I'm telling you, this right, there's literally just a ribbon wrapped around the bottom part of it, so it's touching.
This is why Senda is the queen, both of podcasting and crafting together.
I see it.
Like if you just
amazing.
like wrap a string or something around it so that there's something to absorb the shock, it will fix it.
I feel like you should have like your
now been
like
recording
arms
like this
should all be
for
like
years.
decorated too. You should like it needs some.
Yeah, am I sounding different? You're saying?
No, you sound fine. I just didn't know. I thought I saw you on your headset last time. We're like, oh, that's really good quality for a headset.
No. I have the headset has a mic. I just rarely use it because I have this mic, and why would I use that when I have this mic?
That's true. No, you sound fine.
There is a panda on it also. There's the ribbon wrapped around it.
Beautiful.
And there's a little panda on it. And that's my... it's facing
the
me
headset
now.
is especially.
Not you.
Ooh,
Sorry.
we're getting the full view. Okay. My question is... stalling for time. Tabs.
All right.
Do you want me to stop my recording, Ryan?
Yeah, let's
Oh,
stop this.
stop. Okay. I was going to say...
All right.
Woohoo!
Huzzah!
Part 3.
Part tres. Is
Third
that the
time's
right
charm.
pronunciation?
Do you want a 5 count at the beginning of this one?
Yes, please.
I'm going to do it because I'm going to be the first one who talks. Haha.
Gotta find that part of
Amelia. That was the silent part.
No, sorry. I'm trying to like find the right part of the like outline to be in, and it's just like it's like
okay.
scrolling all the way up and then all the way back.
All
I'm
the
like,
way
stop.
down.
One thing
It's
at a
like
time. Okay.
halfway in the middle. Okay. Are we ready?
Yeah.
I would actually like to quickly answer the previous question, or
sure.
add
Go
then
for
to
it.
the answer,
Sorry.
and then jump back to the. No, that's fine.
Go for it.
I'll make Ryan do more editing.
That's fine.
That's on Ryan to deal with. Okay. Now, forward in time to Amelia's question. Or backwards in time. I don't know where that's going to get put in. Oh, well. Whatever Ryan does with this. That's on editor Ryan.
That's fine.
Nailed it.
Nailed it. As long as that's not the nailed it, like the, dunno, Pinterest fail, nailed it. Then we're good. Actual, nailed it.
Thank you so much for tuning into Character Creation Cast. We've totally nailed our outros.
And now we will click on the stop button so that we can add this to the outtakes. In 3, 2, 1.